It's time for the latest Battlefield 6 update today, and while I went into this new update expecting, well, to be honest, a bit whelmed by, once again, another CQB map, I gotta say I was actually pleasantly surprised by Hagental Base. It's not to say that everything about this update is something to be excited about, but let's actually get into what's new. So Hagental Base is a much bigger map than I expected. It's got a sprawling interior for a military complex, filled with these massive hangar tunnels, side rooms, flanking routes, and destructible walls that actually let you create your own shortcuts, which is not totally expected in some of these more claustrophobic maps. In fact, there's quite a lot of destruction throughout the map. In one room, you can knock a jet hanging from the ceiling and drop it onto a platform over the objective. Concrete walls and barriers slowly erode as the match progresses, turning your solid cover into Swiss cheese. There's also underground passageways with entrances that you can blow open to surprise enemies from above. Honestly, this feels like one of the most interactive maps in the game right now, and overall, I'm impressed with that because I was just kind of expecting another corridor shooter. Now, even from the trailer, I thought this map looked really visually impressive, and I gotta say, in person, it absolutely holds up. The sheer amount of detail on the map really stands out. Every room is full of interesting set dressing that makes it feel like a lived-in space, but it's also not distracting, so you can still keep your eye on the combat. It absolutely fits the part of military base under siege, and the destruction that carves up the map as the map progresses actually plays into that really well. Now that said, the layout does lead to some pretty nasty choke point firefights, but I never felt boxed in completely or forced into an absolute meat grinder the way that, say, Operation Metro did. Once you learn the flanking routes, they give you plenty of options to outmaneuver enemies and open up the objectives for your team. One area of concern I have, though, are the mounted machine guns both teams get to defend their wing of the map. They are devastating, and I got some really nasty kill streaks with them. It can be really hard to balance stationary weapons because on one hand you don't want them to be devastatingly overpowered, but you also don't want them to be useless, which is what they are in most games. The stationary weapons just end up being unused. Now, Hagental does get chaotic. Enemies can come from almost any direction, so you really have to stay on your toes, but I also found plenty of moments where I caught the enemy team completely off guard and could just absolutely mow them down before they realized that they were even getting shot at. Now, because it is release day, I've only played Hagental Base in Conquest and in Nightfall, and I'm interested to see how it performs on Breakthrough or other linear modes. There are some larger tunnel routes from each team's spawn that don't see much use in Conquest beyond flanking, but they could make for some really interesting sectors in Breakthrough. Now, as for the new Nightfall mode that comes with this update, to be honest, it's not really my thing. It's limited to close quarter modes like TDM and Domination, which makes Hagental feel a bit too cramped for my taste. The night vision mechanic is cool, I gotta say, and I do appreciate that DICE made part of the map completely black, so instead of it just being dimly lit, you actually need to use the NVGs here. You can't just crank up the brightness of your monitor. That said, it basically feels like TDM, but in the dark. I didn't particularly find the NVG gameplay to be that engaging or unexpected or anything like that. I found myself kind of wanting more dynamic, interesting gameplay, like being able to knock out power in the map in large modes like Conquest could be kind of interesting, where you would then have to use NVGs or something. You could actually do this in one of the rooms in Battlefield 4's Operation Lockers, and I kind of want to see more stuff like that, given how interactive the map is. Granted, I could be missing maybe something like that, but we'll have to see. As it stands, Nightfall just feels more like a limited time kind of gimmicky event, which I have a hard time getting excited for. Now, of course, it's hard to overlook kind of the bigger issue of this update, which is that they are adding another smallish size map to a game that desperately needs more variety, bigger maps to balance it out. Hagental Base kind of feels like a who asked for this type of map, and I wouldn't blame you if your first reaction was to kind of roll your eyes at this map. I agree, the game needs much larger scale maps, and it's super frustrating that we only get 1 or 2 maps per season, and this season we're not getting any big ones. That said, if Battlefield 6 had a really good balance of maps, then I don't think anybody would be complaining about Hagental Base, because I think it's actually a really good map. But I'm not going to go on making excuses for DICE in this regard. It's absolutely on DICE to deliver that Gold Mud Railway remake as soon as possible, but for what it is, Hagental Base is solid, and I had a lot of fun playing it, and I'm actually looking forward to going back in and playing some more. If you've been missing, say, Operation Locker style gameplay in BF6, well, this is exactly what you've been waiting for, and I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these 24/7 Hagental Base servers pop up. As for the new weapons and balance changes, there's some notable additions. We got the 2 new dirt bike vehicles, a new SMG, the CZ3A1, unlockable through the event pass, and the VZ61 automatic sidearm. Also, BF6 is currently free to play, so naturally I think we're going to be running into a lot of newbie players. Certainly a good time to try out the game if you haven't yet. The patch notes also indicate some pretty big changes. Light transport vehicles can now de-turtle themselves when flipped. Players can actually rock the vehicle side to side to get it upright again. Portable mortars can now be placed in HQ spawns, which is honestly one of the more confusing changes DICE has made. Nothing says teamwork and objective play like sitting in deployment and farming cheap kills. This might be in a response to, say, breakthrough game modes where attacking teams end up getting spawn camped a bit and giving them maybe a way out of spawn. We'll just have to see how that actually plays out. DICE also restricted scout helicopter passengers from using engineer rocket launchers, which again just feels like what are you doing here? Part of the sandbox fun of Battlefield has always been stuff like firing rockets out of a helicopter as you fly past enemies. Sure, you can still shoot them with your primary weapon, but it's not as cool, let's be honest. There's also some smaller but impactful changes. AT mines now despawn 180 seconds after you die, so no more delayed kills halfway through a match. Progression has been speed up with a new XP curve that makes leveling about 15% faster overall. Bots have improved driving and piloting skills, and RedSec received a number of bug fixes and adjustments. Now, ultimately, what is being brought into this update is good content for the most part. I like the map, I like the additions to the game, but there's no denying that we're still getting the trickle-fed DICE content when especially the game feels lacking in some very core elements that Battlefield fans have always expected. No, the content drip is nowhere near as bad as it was with Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 2042. Those games had a hard time getting a good start going, but they did end on higher notes, so it's hard to go back to some of the trickle-fed deployment. Hopefully DICE has some tricks up their sleeve and can improve their content deployment rate and give us a nice big solid pack of maps one of these days. We'll have to wait and see whatever is coming in Season 3. I assume Gold Mud will be waiting for us then. I'd be curious to hear what you guys think about the new map and this update. Let me know in the comments. And up next, check out this video on the best FPS campaigns ever made. This is one of those categories that it is very hard to make a good game in, but some of the top ones are iconic. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.